Okay, so Viggo, how do you approach this role of Chester? How do you start to prepare, think about it? How much work do you do, research?
Well, as Haas was saying, a lot of time did go by, not just from when he first wanted to make it, but even, I don't know, when did we meet?
It took about 3 years after, yeah.
Yeah, almost, 3.5 years ago, we sat down. I said, well, I can go to London. He said, no, I'd like to go to Spain anyway. I'd like to go to Madrid, and he came down. I think he also went to some museums, and you saw some things you liked. And we sat down to have some lunch, and then about 5 hours later, we walked out of lunch, right? I mean, we sat there and talked and talked, and it was great. And I very much liked his ideas and, you know, what he had to say about this particular story and about the historical period, you know, and your associations with particular film noir movies, with photography, and I don't know, just we hit it off really well.
This is my first film as a director, but I was very fortunate to work with a director called Nicholas Ruffin on Drive, and he was incredibly inclusive. And one of the things I watched him do was just communicate with the actors the whole time, like literally a year before shooting, and these constant conversations. And so, because Viggo and I had 3 years, we'd just talk and email and stuff like that, and then we rehearsed a month before shooting, which is quite rare. Normally you do it a few days before. And then the ideas were so fantastic that I kind of went away and completely rewrote the script. And even on set we were doing it. And for me, that was the most exciting thing about doing it for the first time was you know, the collaboration with the cast and the crew. And I was very lucky with both. The whole thing became fluid, and I never thought that going into it. I thought it would all be very pre-planned, and I storyboarded, and I kind of loved that sort of sense. So we talked all the time. I mean, and it kind of grew really because of that.
I've worked with other writer-directors, and I have to say that it's very rare for any writer-director, but especially I think first time out, to be that generous and that open-minded about whatever is going to work best for the scene, for the movie, you know. And there were many times it wouldn't just be because something we'd say on the set, you know, Oscar or Kirsten or myself. He would listen to what we were doing in rehearsal, and he himself, even though he'd written it, he would say, you know, I like the scene, I like the way it's written, and we worked hard on this scene, or as a writer I worked a lot on it, but I think we can trim some of it and it'll work just as well. And there was a certain, well, it's both humility, but it's also intelligence. It's being creatively really attuned to what's going to work and saving everybody, especially himself, a lot of trouble, you know. But it's unusual that someone will so easily let go.
We are current drama and screen studies at the University of Manchester. And we, just as such, we wanted to know what advice you would have for any current film students who aspire to write for film or, you know, work in that industry. And also, with this being your directorial debut, what challenges arose that you weren't expecting, maybe as a first time?
The thing that I think is just I mean, watching film, for me, the best education I sort of can really isn't just watching lots of films and watching them in terms of looking at shots and things, not just, you know, watching it for the first time as a story thing, but then, you know, sitting down and thinking, well, why have they done that and how have they done that, and the whole way of telling a story through a combination of different shots. But I think, you know, the other thing is working with actors, because I think that's really, you know, you'll have brilliant directors of photography, and there'll be people who do what they do way better than you do as a director, and certainly I did. But I think that communication with actors is the most important thing, and I think working with actors, whether it's in theatre or short films or whatever, is really important. And the biggest thing for me is persistence, because it took me forever to get a job where I was paid. It took me, after that, it took me forever for the stuff I'd written to get made. And so many people that I started out with just dropped out because they just couldn't. In a way, you have to take the knocks because you're going to get them, and you get them when films are made because you'll get bad reviews, and it's just how do you get up the next day and write. And I think so much of it is just carrying on, you know, I think really, just really sticking to it and not giving up.
Viggo, what would your advice be if you want to make films?
Stick around. I mean, basically, at the end of what you were saying is you have to give it time. You know, you have to give yourself time to fail. Some people, but it's very, very rare. Some people straight out of drama school or without even going to drama school as actors. The first time they audition, they get a lead role, and maybe the first role they do is a huge hit movie, and there are cases of that. But I can't think of anyone who's had that happen and then had staying power, because you simply, once you're in the spotlight and once you get a lot of attention and you have a lot of scenes that you have to play with each job, it's very hard to learn in a quiet way, and really observe, because you are in the spotlight. And I guess that's true for a director too. If you're lucky and the first movie you make unwittingly turns out to be really good, not because you prepared it, it's just because it's just unusual, and then you're sort of given this God status, and there's so much pressure, and then you're not going to have a chance to learn in an organic way. For me, I had luck right away in the sense that somebody saw me in a theater workshop, something I was trying to see what it was like, and it was an agent said, I think I'd like to send you on an audition. The very first one I went to, I got to the final stages, and I was just doing it on instinct, just doing, whatever literary sensibility or whatever, I don't know, ideas I had about what this character would do. It was interesting enough, or I looked right or something. And so I got right down to between me and another actor for the lead role in this movie. And then then I thought I did a good job, and I was sure I was going to get this job. It's great. I'm going to try this for 3 years, and I just thought I would have the role, and then I was surprised I didn't get it. I didn't understand why.
Can you say what role it was? Or?
There was this happened like 25 times in a row.
Oh, right. Lots of roles.
And I never would get it. I always get down to the last. But what was good is that I kept one of the first ones, I don't know if it was the very first one, was Greystoke. It was a movie about Tarzan, and it was a big movie, and I really liked it. I liked this whole thing of the monkeys and the trees, and I thought he should have had facial hair and all that. I didn't, but it's a studio movie, so they did it to a degree, and it was very interesting. But that and many other roles, it didn't work out. But what I did started doing, I was doing some plays and doing very small parts where I'd have two words in a scene, and mostly was there listening to other actors talk, watching how they did things, and watching how they would put together shots and how directors worked. And I had lots of roles over many years where I didn't say much, and then later I was given bigger roles where I didn't say much. No, but they don't like me talking. But that's a good, not having the pressure. I mean, I was never supposed to go to a premiere or do an interview. I would just go, and I'd have maybe 2 days' work. I'd watch these well-known actors do things, have more dialogue, and I'd pass through in the background, or I'd interact with one of them for 10 seconds. But it's that thing that seems very easy to say, yes, please, and then they pour you a glass of oil and you drink it. But you're so nervous when it comes to, it's good to get that done without you being the focus of attention. Whereas if you're the lead in the movie, it's like, how are they going to do that, It's much better, and stick around is the best way to learn, just, I know that and that's also healthy, that, at your age, and same as you describing university, same as me when I was starting it. Well, I'm going to try this for a few years, and I expect to succeed immediately. Otherwise, I'm on to something else. It's understandable, and I think it's positive to be young and want to just immediately. You never know. You might. But that energy of wanting results immediately drives you to do things that pay off later. So it's a good energy. It's just finding a way to harness it, I suppose.